Such, if you haven't heard of it, is the umbrella organisation for the NGOs and all the organisations within Britain which are opposing airport expansion and aviation expansion. And biofuels are becoming a real issue with aviation at the moment, largely because the industry says they are a special case. In fact, aviation is always a special case. Whatever it does, it gets special tax breaks and special concessions on everything, but it's a special case on fuel because it flies up in the air and therefore it can't use electricity. So they're saying we will need liquid fuels ad infinitum and therefore we must get them. And so they're hoping to be running on, you see different figures. There are figures of 10, 20, up to 50% biofuels by about 2050 for the aviation industry. And that's with an industry kind of doubling or tripling in size worldwide between now and then. So the first thing is a test flight happening this coming Thursday. It's Thomson Airways, and it's flying from Birmingham to, I think it's got Arrecife, I think it's Tenerife. And this flight was postponed from the 28th of July because they said they were going to be flying on used cooking oil. Well, I think anyone who looks into it would find that there's not an awful lot of used cooking oil, and what there is already used for terrestrial uses. Anybody with a diesel engine can use it for that, and it's also used, I think, in the pharmaceutical industry and chemicals. It's already spoken for. So Thomson is just using a lot of PR to say, look at us, we're really green, we're flying on chip fat. The trouble is they couldn't get any chip fat, and so the flight had to be postponed from the 28th of July. It didn't say quite what the reason was. In fact, they're getting the fuel from America, I think somewhere in Louisiana, not England. So now it's taking off on Thursday, and they haven't actually said exactly what will be in this fuel, but it will be some cooking oil, and babassu nut, and also tallow, which is remains of animal fat from melted down pigs and cows and whatever is. I think there's a vegetarian point here, because I said to my daughter, who's a veggie, would you mind flying in a plane that's burning beef fat? She said, well, I wouldn't really mind. So that wasn't the answer I wanted, but I thought some vegetarians might be upset by flying in a plane that's burning animal oil. Anyway, so this plane is going to be flying in theory on these three kinds of oil. And then they want to fly one plane every day for the next 3 months or so, again with the same mixture. Now globally, the industry has been able to get fuel certified by whatever the oil authorities are that say it's safe, because aviation fuel has to have a lot of energy density. You can't have quite a runny, low-density fuel. It's got to be quite light and lots of energy per kilogram. So the fuels they're making from biofuel have to be adapted, so they've got these, I think it's 4 carbon atoms, so the fuel is very energy dense. And they've now got certification for various kinds of fuel, and they can use 50% biofuel with 50% kerosene in their engines. And lots of airlines are going now for demonstration flights. Basically it's a PR thing to say, look, we can do it, the engine's absolutely fine, there are no problems, it works. And then of course, once the ETS gets going on the 1st of January next year, biofuels are zero rated for carbon emissions, and therefore there'll be big benefits for any airline that can be using biofuels to fly in the ETS. This is partly because, though they regard biofuels as zero carbon, but the actual carbon costs of producing the fuel, the growing it, the tractors, the pesticides, the machinery, they're getting it from A to B, all those carbon emissions are put on somebody else. They're agricultural emissions. So aviation gets it scot-free, zero carbon. And that's something we have to fight for very hard. It is not zero carbon fuel, of course. But the Thomson fight is a PR thing. They're trying to say, look at us, we're being really green, we're really helping the planet, we're flying on biofuels. And they're not. And the other thing we have to really fight the industry about is saying that IATA, which is the global airlines body, has said, we're not going to use any oils which interfere with the human food chain. And that's an aspiration. But actually, already, before planes have even really begun flying, they're already actually using fuels which are in direct competition with food. They will be using palm oil because palm oil is the cheapest and easiest to get hold of. And as you know, I bet you all know a lot about biofuels, there's the indirect land use effect. Any land grown, used anywhere to grow any kind of biofuel has an indirect effect of other land somewhere else has to be used to grow food. So any biofuel they are using will be having an impact on food. They're also trying to use alcohol now, saw an article last week. They're trying to use alcohol made from, I think, corn or wheat in America and sugar, and convert the alcohol into aviation fuels. There's another source of fuel which is in direct competition with food. So with the massive aspirations for growth of the industry and the massive aspirations for using biofuel, 20% or more of their total fuel requirements in the next couple of decades, this could be a massive problem. And they argue they are a special case and they must have use of the fuel because they can't go electric and cars on the ground can go electric. So if you see anything about this story on Thursday, they'll be having massive press coverage about this biofuel flight. Please write to your MP, write to your papers, do anything you can to jump up and down and make a nuisance and make a fuss about it, and we'll be trying to fight it any way we can, because the biofuels in aviation are not the way to go. There's also a consultation out at the moment by the DFT. It's called the Aviation Scoping Document, and the consultation shuts on the 20th of this month. And that's the government's sort of first phase of making new aviation policy for the UK. And it's our chance to put something in there about what should be said about biofuels. So if you feel like responding to this consultation, there's stuff on the Airport Watch website about it, and you don't need to write a complicated reply, just say a couple of sentences, but just put the point across that aviation biofuels are not the way for the UK to go. So I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.